The outpost drifted in silence at the edge of human space, old and forgotten, held together by patched metal and stubborn hope. Most ships avoided it. Most people forgot it existed. But for Elia's ward, it was home. Elias worked alone in the main hangar, surrounded by tools that looked older than him. His hands were steady as he adjusted a cracked power coupler pulled from a broken shuttle. He was not a soldier. He had never fired a weapon in anger. He fixed things. That was all he had ever wanted to do. The station sensors gave a weak warning sound. Elias frowned and wiped grease from his hands. No ships were scheduled, no traders, no patrols. He walked toward the console, expecting debris or a false signal. Then the hangar lights dimmed. A shadow moved outside the station, large and drifting without control. Elias' breath slowed. The object was not debris. It was a body. He rushed to the manual controls and opened the outer bay just enough to pull the object in with the tractor field. The mass slammed gently onto the hangar floor, metal scraping against metal. The lights flickered, then stabilized. Elias stood still for a long moment. The figure on the floor was tall, armored, and very much alive, though barely. The armor was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. It looked grown, not built, shaped like overlapping plates that followed the body's curves as if alive. Deep cracks ran across its surface, glowing faintly with failing energy. And inside the armor was an alien. She lay unmoving, her breathing shallow and uneven. Dark blue blood had dried along the seams of the armor. One arm twitched, then went still. Elias swallowed. He should have called someone. He should have sealed the bay and waited for authorities. This was alien military hardware, dangerous, illegal to touch. Instead, he stepped closer. The armor made a low sound, almost like pain. Elias felt it then, that quiet pull he always felt when something was broken. Not fear, not curiosity, responsibility. He activated a low-level scan, careful to avoid invasive systems. The readings made no sense. The armor and the alien's body were linked at every level: energy, nerves, circulation. The armor was not just protection. It was life support, and it was failing. "If I don't do anything," Elias said quietly to himself, "you're going to die." The alien's eyes snapped open. They were bright silver, sharp with fear and instinct. Her head turned toward him with effort, and her damaged armor shifted weakly. "Do not touch me," she said. Her voice was rough, translated through a failing universal field. Elias raised his hand slowly. "Okay, I won't, but your armor is breaking, and it's taking you with it." She tried to sit up and failed. Pain flashed across her face before she forced it away. "This armor cannot be repaired," she said. "Not by your kind, not by anyone." Elias glanced back at the armor, at the stress fractures and misaligned energy veins. "It can be stabilized," he said, "at least enough to keep you alive." Her eyes narrowed. Only one man ever fixed this armor. Elias did not answer. He was already kneeling, adjusting his scanner, reading patterns others would miss. He saw how the armor had tried to reroute power on its own and failed. He saw design logic that reminded him of old human tech, adaptive, emotional, almost stubborn. "You're losing power here," he said gently, pointing. "The feedback loop is burning you from the inside." She stared at him. "You should be afraid." Elias looked up at her, confused. "Why, I am Caliph of the Iron Host," she said. "Your people fear my name." Elias thought for a moment. "I don't follow war news much," he said honestly. "I fix ships." Something in her expression shifted, not relief, not anger, confusion. Elias moved slowly, carefully disconnecting a damaged external plate. The armor reacted, energy flaring weakly. Caliph gasped, her fingers curling. "Easy," Elias said. I know it hurts. I won't cut anything alive." Her eyes widened. "You can tell," he nodded. "Metal doesn't scream." He rerouted a small power line using a human-made conductor, one he had shaped by hand years ago. The armor resisted for a moment, then accepted it. The glow stabilized. Caliph's breathing evened. She stared at him now, truly looking. "That should buy us some time," Elias said, "but I need to open part of the inner layer or the damage will spread." Kalith was silent for a long moment. Trust did not come easily to her. She had been trained since birth to fight, to kill, to survive alone. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, loud. This one was quiet. "If you harm me," she said slowly, "my people will erase this place." Elias met her gaze. "If I don't help you, you won't live long enough for that to matter." Another pause. "Do it," she said. Elias worked for hours. He spoke softly as he worked, not to distract her, but because silence felt wrong when something was hurting. He explained what he was doing in simple words, even though she might not understand them all. He treated the armor like a patient, not a weapon. Kalith drifted in and out of consciousness. In her half-dreaming state, memories rose, another human long ago, hands just as steady, voice just as calm. A time before endless war. When she woke again, the pain was less. Elias leaned back, exhausted. "You're stable," he said. "Not fixed, but stable." Kalith looked down at her armor, then at him. "You did what our engineers could not." Elias shrugged weakly. "They probably tried to force it. Systems like this don't like being forced." Her lips tightened. "That human long ago said the same thing." Elias froze. "Another human?" "Yes," she said, "captured a long time ago. He was different." Elias felt a chill he could not explain. "What happened to him?" "He was executed," Kalith said flatly. "But before that, he fixed this armor." They sat in silence. Outside the station, sensors lit up. Multiple warp signatures, fast, military. Kalith felt it immediately, her body tensed. "They have found me." Elias looked at the console. "That's a lot of ships." "They will kill you for helping me," she said. Elias stood, wiped his hands, and checked the last connection he had made. The armor pulsed once, stronger than before. "Then we should make sure they don't interrupt the repair," he said. Kalith stared at him, something close to disbelief in her eyes. For the first time in centuries, she wondered if the galaxy had been wrong about humans. And for the first time in his life, Elias Ward stood between the universe and something it wanted to destroy, not with a weapon, but with a wrench in his hand and a quiet refusal to let something broken die. Part 2. 1600 words Kaleko or interesting Hunachea or third-person style, Ma Lekni Ha or simple basic English Ka or violated free Honachai. Without short heading, the first enemy ship dropped out of warp like a blade cutting space. Then another. Then more. Red warning lights filled the outpost as alarms finally screamed to life. Elias did not panic. He felt fear, yes, but his hands still moved with purpose. He sealed the outer bay doors and rerouted power from non-essential systems. Life support stayed on. Tools stayed on. Everything else could wait. Kalith rose slowly to her feet. Her armor responded better now, plates shifting with smoother motion, but she was far from ready for battle. She tested her balance, jaw tight with frustration. "They will board," she said. "They will not ask questions." Elias glanced at the tactical display. "This station doesn't have weapons." "They will not need them," Kalith replied. Elias took a breath and looked at her armor again. He could see more now, patterns forming where damage once spread wildly. The armor was learning from the repairs, adapting. "Then we don't fight," he said. "We buy time." Kalith looked at him sharply. "For what?" "For the armor to finish stabilizing," Elias said. "It's close, I can feel it." She hesitated. Trust was still a fragile thing. But the pain that had ruled her body for days was fading. The armor no longer screamed. It listened. Docking clamps slammed into the station hull. "They are here," Kalith said. Elias moved quickly, pulling open a floor panel and exposing old maintenance shafts. "This outpost was built by humans who didn't expect to win fights," he said. "They expected to survive them." He led Kalith down into the narrow corridors beneath the hangar. The metal walls were scratched and worn, but solid. Elias moved through them like memory itself guided him. Above them, metal screamed as boarding teams cut their way inside. Calith's breathing slowed as they moved. Her people believed humans to be chaotic, emotional, weak. Yet this one moved with calm certainty, planning steps ahead without raising his voice. "Why help me?" she asked quietly as they walked. Elias did not answer right away. "Because you were dying," he said at last, "and because your armor is beautiful, not as a weapon. As a design." Calith almost laughed, a short broken sound. "It has ended worlds." "That doesn't mean it was meant for that," Elias said. They reached a sealed chamber deep in the station. Elias activated it with an old code. The door slid open to reveal a compact workshop, hidden and shielded from scans. "My grandfather built this," Elias said, "in case someone ever came looking for trouble." Calith stepped inside. The armor reacted again, glowing faintly brighter. Lines along its surface shifted into new alignments, smoother and more balanced. Elias noticed. "It likes this place," he said softly. "It recognizes human structures," Calith replied slowly. "That should not be possible." Elias powered up a diagnostic table and motioned for her to stand on it. "Help me understand your armor," he said. "Not as a weapon, as a system." Reluctantly, Calith agreed. As Elias worked, he discovered more impossible things. The armor responded to tone of voice, to patience. When he rushed, it resisted. When he explained, it adjusted. "This isn't just technology," he murmured. "It's philosophy." Calith closed her eyes. Memories returned again. A human prisoner, hands dirty with oil, humming quietly while working. Her armor had responded the same way then. "They killed him because he would not teach them," she said suddenly. Elias looked up. "Teach them what?" "How to listen," Calith said. Explosions shook the station. The enemy forces were moving closer, sweeping deck by deck. Elias rerouted power again, channeling it through the armor interface. The glow intensified. Calith gasped, not in pain this time, but surprise. "I feel complete," she said. "Not yet," Elias replied, "but close." The enemy finally breached the chamber door. Armed figures poured in, alien soldiers in rigid black armor, weapons raised. They froze when they saw Calith standing there alive. "You were ordered to return," their leader said. "You are damaged property." Calith stepped forward. Her armor shifted, plates locking into a new formation. Not aggressive, defensive, controlled. "I am not property," she said. The soldiers raised their weapons. Elias moved without thinking. He stepped between them and Calith. "Stop," he said. His voice was calm, almost tired. "You're standing on a human station, and you're interrupting a repair." The soldiers hesitated, confused. Then the armor reacted. Energy surged outward, not as a blast, but as pressure. The weapons in the soldiers' hands shut down, systems overridden by signals they did not understand. Calith stared at her own hands. "It listens to you," she whispered. Elias swallowed. "I didn't tell it to do that." The soldiers backed away, fear replacing discipline. Calith raised her head. "Leave," she commanded, "or learn what this armor was truly made for." They fled. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of the station. Elias sank onto a crate, exhausted. "Okay," he said weakly. "That was new." Calith looked at him, something unguarded in her eyes, respect, awe, maybe gratitude. "You have changed it," she said. "You have changed me." Elias smiled faintly. "It's still your armor." "No," Calith said softly. "It belongs to both our peoples now." Outside, the remaining enemy ships retreated, confused and afraid. Deep within the armor, ancient systems fully awakened, not as a weapon of conquest, but as a promise long forgotten. And somewhere in the galaxy, old lies began to crack. Part 3. 1600 words Kaleko or interesting Hunachea or third-person style, Ma Lekni Ha or simple basic English Ka or violated free Hona Chai. Without short heading, the station felt different after the enemy ships fled. The air was quieter, heavier, as if it was waiting. Elias noticed it first. Machines always spoke to him in small ways, and right now everything around him felt alert. Calith stood still in the center of the hidden workshop. Her armor no longer flickered or sparked. It breathed with her, smooth and steady. The pain that had ruled her body for so long was gone, replaced by a strange warmth that spread through her chest and limbs. "This should not be possible," she said softly. Elias was already moving again, checking readings, watching energy flows. "It makes sense," he replied. "Your armor was never broken beyond repair. It was misunderstood." Caliph watched him work. Humans were supposed to be impatient, careless, yet Elias treated every component as if it mattered, even the smallest one. "My people believed strength came from control," she said. "From forcing systems to obey." Elias nodded. "That works for a while, then things break." Caliph's eyes dimmed with old memories. "That is what happened to us." The station sensors suddenly flared again. Elias stiffened, then checked the display. This time it was not enemy ships. It was a broadcast. A wide-spectrum signal swept through the system, old and encoded in a way Elias had never seen. But the armor reacted instantly. Lines of light flowed across Caliph's body, forming symbols that made her gasp. "What is it?" Elias asked. Caliph's voice trembled. "A summons from the Iron Host Council. They tracked you again." "No," she said slowly. "They felt this." The armor pulsed once, strong enough to shake the floor. Elias swallowed. "So what happens now?" Caliph turned to him. "Now they come to see if the universe has changed." Hours later, the first council ship arrived. Then another. Massive vessels, ancient and proud, forming a silent ring around the small human outpost. Caliph stood tall, her posture no longer defensive. The armor responded to her calm, reshaping itself into a balanced form Elias had never seen before. "They will demand answers," she said. "Then let's give them honest ones," Elias replied. A projection filled the workshop. Tall figures appeared, wrapped in ceremonial armor far more rigid than Caliph's. Their eyes widened when they saw her standing unrestrained, alive and glowing with controlled power. "You were declared lost," one of them said. "Your armor was listed as beyond recovery." Caliph lifted her chin. "Your list was wrong." Their gaze shifted to Elias. A human, unarmed, calm. "Explain this," another demanded. Elias hesitated, then stepped forward. "Your armor isn't just a weapon," he said. "It's a partner. You treated it like a tool. Tools break." "Partners heal," murmurs spread through the council. "This human speaks nonsense," one said. Caliph raised a hand. "He speaks truth." She extended her arm. The armor responded, projecting a memory, images of ancient battlefields, burning cities, and then something unexpected. Humans, working alongside early versions of the armor, laughing, teaching, fixing. The council fell silent. "You erased them," Caliph said quietly, "because you feared them." "They were weak," one counselor said. "They were patient," Caliph replied. "And patience outlasts violence." Elias felt a strange weight lift from his chest. He had never known this history, yet somehow it felt personal, like something stolen from his people long ago. The council demanded proof. Elias provided it, not with weapons but with data. Design logic, repair records hidden deep within the armor's core, written in old human code. "This armor was designed to grow," Elias explained, "to adapt alongside its wearer, but only if treated with respect." The council argued among themselves. Pride fought with fear. Tradition clashed with truth. Then something unexpected happened. The armor spoke, not with words but with resonance. A pulse that spread through the projection, through the council ships, through every connected system. Old armor units across the fleet responded, awakening from rigid obedience into something more flexible, more alive. Caliph gasped as voices, not commands but feelings, brushed against her mind. Relief, gratitude, long-held exhaustion. "We were never meant to be cages," she whispered. The council ships powered down their weapons. "This changes everything," one counselor admitted. Elias let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. But the galaxy does not change quietly. A new signal cut through the system, sharp and aggressive. A third-party fleet, one that had benefited from keeping humanity forgotten and the Iron Host rigid and predictable. "They will try to destroy this truth," Caliph said. Elias looked at the incoming fleet. Bigger, faster, armed for annihilation. "We can't outgun them," he said. Caliph looked at him, eyes steady. "Then we do not fight as they expect." She placed a hand over her chest. The armor responded, opening channels Elias had never seen before. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Sharing," she said. The armor extended its signal outward, not as control but invitation. Human stations, ships, forgotten colonies across the sector felt it. Old machines woke. Defensive systems realigned, not into an army but into a network. Elias realized it then. Humans had never ruled the galaxy because they never wanted to. They built things that worked together, quietly, endlessly. The attacking fleet fired. Their weapons lost lock. Guidance systems failed. Power grids overloaded, not violently but safely, shutting down to prevent damage. The enemy ships drifted, helpless. The battle ended without a single explosion. Silence returned. Caliph turned to Elias, all clear on her face. "You did not conquer them." Elias smiled tiredly. "I fixed the problem." The council ships bowed, not in submission but in acknowledgement. "The Iron Host must change," one said, "and we will need human help to do it." Elias scratched the back of his neck. "We're good at fixing old messes," he said, "but it takes time." Caliph stepped closer to him. For the first time since they met, she lowered her guard completely. "Will you stay?" she asked. "Help us rebuild what we broke." Elias looked around the workshop, the station, the stars beyond. His life had been small, quiet, and he had loved it. But some things, once broken, demanded more than silence. "I'll stay," he said, "as long as we do it right." The armor pulsed warmly, as if approving, and across the galaxy, a truth long buried finally stood up and breathed again. Part 4. 1600 words Kaleko, or interesting Hunachea, or third-person style, Ma Lekni Ha, or simple basic English Ka, or violated free Hona Chai, without short heading. The galaxy did not change in a single moment. It changed in many small ones. After the hostile fleet drifted powerless and silent, no victory songs were sung. No worlds burned. The Iron Host Council ships remained in orbit, watching the small human outpost that had somehow become the center of everything. Elias slept for 12 hours straight. When he woke, the station felt alive in a way it never had before. Systems that had once hummed quietly now worked together, smoother, more efficient. Old panels responded faster. Lights adjusted on their own. It was not magic. It was cooperation. Caliph stood at the viewport when Elias found her. She was not wearing her armor. For the first time, Elias saw her as she truly was, tall, strong, marked by scars that told stories older than his world's history. Without the armor, she looked lighter. "I did not realize how heavy it was," she said, sensing his presence. Elias nodded. "You carried a lot more than metal." She turned to face him. "So did you." The council requested a meeting soon after, not a demand, a request. It was held on the station itself, not aboard their massive ships. That alone would have been unthinkable days ago. Elias sat quietly while Caliph spoke. She did not accuse. She did not threaten. She told the truth. She spoke of armor that listened, of humans who fixed instead of ruled, of how fear had shaped an empire into something brittle. She showed them what the armor could be when allowed to grow, not sharper but wiser. Then Elias spoke. He did not speak of revenge. He spoke of responsibility. "When you break something," he said simply, "you don't get to walk away just because it was useful before it broke. You either fix it or you admit you were never strong enough to use it." The council listened. Change followed slowly, but it followed. Iron Host armor units across the galaxy were recalled, not to be stripped or destroyed, but relearned. Humans were invited, not as rulers, but as teachers and partners. Engineers, mediators, quiet problem solvers. Some resisted. Not everyone wanted a softer truth. But resistance no longer meant war. It meant debate. Time, adjustment, Caliph chose to stay on the outpost. So did Elias. The station grew, human ships docked, alien vessels followed. What began as a forgotten place became neutral ground, a place where broken things came to be understood. Elias spent his days teaching others how to listen to machines instead of forcing them. Caliph trained warriors to think before striking, to feel their armor as an extension of themselves, not a cage. They worked side by side, not as symbols but as people. One day, long after the first battles faded into history, a delegation arrived from a distant system. Their armor was ancient, locked, and failing. Their warriors were afraid. Caliph greeted them. "Only one man ever fixed this armor," one of them said, touching Caliph's restored plates with awe. Caliph smiled and slowly looked at Elias. "He is here," she said. Elias did not feel like a legend. He still wore old clothes, still drank bad station coffee, still got tired. But when he knelt to examine the damaged armor, the familiar quiet focus returned. The armor responded. The galaxy watched, not because a human commanded fleets, not because a human conquered worlds, but because, once again, a human fixed something everyone else had given up on. Years passed. The Iron Host changed its name, not to erase the past but to acknowledge it. They became guardians instead of conquerors. Human worlds were no longer overlooked, not feared either. They were respected for what they had always been, builders of bridges others never saw. As for Caliph, she never ruled. She chose to guide. As for Elias, he never sought statues or titles. He built workshops instead. And when asked how such a quiet man reshaped the galaxy, Caliph always answered the same way. He listened. And in a universe built on force, that was the most powerful thing of all.